Chapter 1. The Fatal Error. The rising sun painted Silicon Valley's skyline in hues of gold and pink as Sarah Chun made her way through the sleek glass doors of Visual Tech Solutions. At 32, she'd already earned her position as lead project manager for one of the world's premier audio-visual technology companies. Today, however, the weight of responsibility felt particularly heavy on her shoulders. In less than 6 hours, they would be coordinating the largest simultaneous product launch in tech history. A revolutionary AI smartphone unveiling across 75 cities worldwide. The office, normally a picture of controlled chaos, was unusually quiet at 6:30 a.m. Sarah's heels clicked against the polished concrete floors as she made her way to the command center, her reflection bouncing off the walls of LED screens that lined the corridors. Each screen displayed real-time data from their various global installation sites: Tokyo, London, Dubai, Sydney, New York, a digital nervous system connecting their operations worldwide. Another all-nighter boss, Tom Martinez, the senior technical director, looked up from his workstation. At 48, with salt and pepper hair and laugh lines around his eyes, Tom had seen it all in his 20 years in the industry. His presence always brought a sense of calm to even the most stressful situations. Sarah managed a tired smile, setting down her third coffee of the morning. Had to triple-check everything. This launch is different, Tom. We're talking about synchronized LED walls in 75 locations, live streaming to millions, with zero margin for error. One glitch and we'll handle it. Tom finished, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of experience. We've got the best team in the business. As if on cue, Jake Sullivan burst through the door, his youthful energy filling the room. At 24, he was their newest hire, a programming prodigy who dropped out of MIT to start his own streaming platform before joining Visual Tech. His brilliant mind was matched only by his occasional tendency to act first and think later. "Morning, everyone," Jake called out, his messenger bag still swinging from his shoulder. "Hey, Sarah, you're going to love this. I stayed late last night and implemented some improvements to our global sync protocol. Should make the whole system run about 30% faster." Sarah's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. "You did what?" "Relax," Jake grinned, sliding into his chair and pulling up multiple monitors. "I ran all the basic tests. It's working perfectly. See." His fingers flew across the keyboard, bringing up streams of code and performance metrics. The room's atmosphere shifted as Mei Wong, the head of network operations, emerged from her office. Her usual composed expression was replaced by one of growing concern. "Sarah, we're detecting anomalies in the system. Multiple nodes are reporting synchronization issues." Sarah's heart rate spiked. "Which locations?" "Initially Paris and Singapore, but..." May's eyes darted across her tablet. "Now we're seeing similar patterns in Seoul, Mumbai, and Sao Paulo. The new protocol seems to be causing cascade failures in our backup systems." "Jake," Sarah's voice was dangerously quiet, "tell me exactly what you changed in the system." The young programmer's confidence began to waver as he pulled up his code. I created a new compression algorithm for the video feeds. It was working fine in my tests, but..." He trailed off as warning messages began flooding their monitors. Tom was already moving, his fingers dancing across multiple keyboards. "The changes are conflicting with our fail-safe protocols. We're looking at potential system-wide failures if we don't contain this." The command center erupted into controlled chaos. Emergency phones started ringing as technical teams from around the world began reporting issues. Sarah felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that came with crisis management, but this was different. This wasn't just another technical hiccup. This was a potential catastrophe that could cost their company millions and destroy their reputation in the industry. "Listen up." Sarah's voice cut through the growing noise. "May, start emergency protocols for all affected nodes. Tom, get our backup servers online and ready for immediate switchover." "Jake," she paused, looking at the young programmer, who seemed to have aged years in the last few minutes. "You're going to help us fix this. But first, tell me everything you changed." No details spared. As the team scrambled to contain the crisis, Sarah couldn't help but notice the time. 7:15 a.m. Less than 5 hours until the global launch. Outside their windows, the Silicon Valley sun continued its ascent, unaware of the drama unfolding within the glass walls of Visual Tech Solutions. The next few hours would either make or break their company, and Sarah had a sinking feeling that they hadn't yet discovered the full extent of their problems. Chapter 2. The Ripple Effect. In the dimly lit server room beneath Visual Tech's command center, Rachel Martinez, Tom's daughter and the company's resident hardware specialist, was already elbow-deep in cables and circuit boards. At 29, she'd fought hard to prove herself more than just Tom's kid, earning respect through her uncanny ability to diagnose hardware issues that stumped even the most seasoned engineers. "Come on, baby, talk to me," she muttered, tracing her fingers along a complex array of fiber optic connections. The gentle hum of cooling fans provided a rhythmic backdrop to her work, but she could sense something was off in their usual symphony. A slight vibration, barely perceptible, suggested the servers were working harder than they should be. Her phone buzzed, a message from upstairs. The situation was worse than initially thought. Jake's modifications had triggered a cascade effect in their proprietary signal processing units, the specialized hardware that made Visual Tech's synchronized displays possible across multiple time zones. "Dad, you there?" Rachel spoke into her headset, continuing her diagnostic routine. "I'm seeing some weird power fluctuations in the primary signal processors. Whatever Jake did, it's not just a software issue anymore." Tom's voice crackled through her earpiece. "How bad are we talking, kiddo?" Rachel hesitated, watching as another bank of diagnostic LEDs shifted from green to amber. "Remember that incident in Dubai 3 years ago? This feels similar, but on steroids. The processors are trying to handle Jake's new compression algorithm, but they're not designed for this level of throughput. We're looking at potential hardware failures across multiple nodes." Above in the command center, Sarah overheard the exchange and felt her stomach sink. The Dubai incident had nearly cost them their biggest client in the Middle East. This was shaping up to be exponentially worse. "I might have an idea," Jake interjected, his fingers still flying across his keyboard. "If we can redistribute the processing load across our secondary nodes." "No," 4 voices shouted simultaneously. Jake stopped typing. "Right now." Sarah's voice carried an edge that made everyone freeze. "Every change you make right now is being replicated across our entire network. One wrong move, and we could crash the whole system." The room fell silent except for the urgent pinging of incoming alert messages. On the main display wall, red warning indicators were spreading like a virus across their global network map. Singapore had just gone dark, and Tokyo was showing critical system instability. May spoke up from her station, her usual calm demeanor showing cracks. "We have another problem. The client's technical team is requesting access to our systems for their final checks. They're scheduled to begin in 15 minutes. "Stall them," Sarah ordered, her mind racing through possibilities. "Tell them we're running an extended security protocol. Standard procedure." From the corner of the room, a new voice joined the conversation. "I believe I might be of assistance." Dr. Elena Rossi, the semi-retired head of R&D, stood in the doorway, her silver hair pulled back in its characteristic tight bun. At 65, she'd helped design many of Visual Tech's core systems, though she now served primarily as a consultant. Jake's eyes lit up. "Dr. Rossi, I actually based some of my modifications on your early papers about dynamic signal processing." "Yes, I suspected as much," Elena interrupted, moving to his workstation with surprising speed. "Your implementation is brilliant in theory, but you've overlooked something crucial about our hardware architecture." She leaned over Jake's shoulder, her eyes scanning his code. "The compression algorithm you've created, it's elegant, but it's forcing our systems to process data in a way they weren't designed to handle. It's like trying to force a river through a garden hose." Rachel's voice crackled through the intercom. "Dr. Rossi, I'm seeing cascading failures in the signal processing units. We've got maybe an hour before the hardware damage becomes irreversible." Elena straightened up, her expression grave. "Sarah, we need to make a decision. Right now, we have 2 options, neither of them good." The room held its breath as a series of urgent alerts flashed across the screens. In the server room, Rachel watched as another bank of LEDs turned red. Through the windows, the California sun continued to rise, marking the countdown to what could either be Visual Tech's greatest triumph or its catastrophic downfall. Chapter 3. The Hidden Protocol. Elena's words hung in the air like a thundercloud. Option 1. We initiate a complete system shutdown and restart, which would take at least 2 hours, time we don't have. Option 2. We try to implement a rollback to the previous day's configuration, but with Jake's changes so deeply embedded in the system now, we risk corrupting our entire network infrastructure. Sarah pressed her fingers to her temples, fighting back a mounting headache. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see news vans already gathering in the parking lot below. The client's product launch was becoming the tech industry's most anticipated event of the year. There has to be another way, Jake insisted, his earlier confidence replaced by desperate determination. What if we could isolate the affected nodes and... We're past that point, May interrupted, her eyes fixed on her monitors. The system integration is too deep. We're losing Dubai and Stockholm now. Seoul is hanging by a thread. In the server room, Rachel suddenly stood straight up, her eyes wide with realization. Wait a minute. Dad, remember that backup protocol you built after the Melbourne incident? The one that never made it into the official documentation. Tom's face lit up with understanding. The Ghost Protocol. Rachel, that was just an experimental. But it's still in the system, isn't it? Rachel pressed. You never removed it, because you said it might come in handy someday. Elena moved closer to Tom's station, intrigued. What Ghost Protocol? Tom hesitated, then began typing rapidly. After we nearly lost the Australian Open broadcast 3 years ago, I developed a hidden emergency protocol. It creates a temporary parallel system architecture that can run independently while we repair the main system. We never implemented it officially because it wasn't scalable for our normal operations. But it might buy us time. Sarah finished, hope flickering in her eyes. How long would it take to activate? That's the problem, Tom grimaced. The protocol needs to be activated locally at each affected node. Someone would need to physically access the main control panel at each location and enter the activation sequence manually. Jake jumped up from his chair. I'll do it. I can talk our local teams through the process. It's the least I can. No, Sarah cut him off. You need to stay here and help Dr. Rossi understand exactly what changes you made. We need someone who knows our hardware inside and out. She turned to Rachel through the video feed. Think you can handle it? Rachel was already grabbing her laptop and emergency kit. I'll need access to the company jet and a lot of coffee. Already on it, May responded, her fingers flying over her phone. I can have the corporate jet ready in 20 minutes. But Rachel, even at top speed, you can only hit maybe 3 or 4 locations personally. We're talking about dozens of affected nodes. Then we'll need to coordinate with our most experienced local techs at the other locations, Rachel said, heading for the door. Dad, send me the protocol documentation. I'll study it on the flight. Sarah made a quick decision. Tom, you coordinate from here with Dr. Rossi and Jake. May, your mission control. Keep track of Rachel's progress and manage communications with all nodes. I'll handle the client and media relations. She turned to Rachel, who was about to leave. Which cities are you hitting first? Tokyo, Singapore, and Dubai. Rachel replied without hesitation. They're our most critical nodes right now, and they have the most complex hardware setups. I'll train their local teams, while I'm there to handle the rest of their regional networks. As Rachel rushed out, Sarah checked the time. 8:45 a.m. Just over 3 hours until the launch. On the main screen, more red warning lights were appearing across Europe and Asia. The Ghost Protocol was a shot in the dark, but it was their only option. Tom watched his daughter leave, then turned back to his screens. The Ghost Protocol has never been tested at this scale. If it works, it'll be a miracle. Then let's make a miracle happen, Sarah replied, straightening her jacket. Because right now, it's either that or watching everything we've built crash and burn on live television. In the elevator heading to the garage, Rachel took a deep breath, checking her equipment one last time. Her phone buzzed, a message from her father. "Be careful, kiddo. And remember the third rule of engineering." She smiled despite the tension. "Sometimes the craziest solution is the only one that works," she whispered to herself as the elevator doors opened. Chapter 4. Race Against Time. 30,000 feet above the Pacific Ocean, Rachel Martinez sat in the corporate jet's leather seat, surrounded by open laptops and technical documentation. The sun was setting outside her window. She was chasing darkness across the international date line, where tomorrow was already beginning. In Tokyo, their first destination, dawn was breaking. "Talk to me, May." Rachel spoke into her headset, typing furiously as she reviewed the Ghost Protocol's activation sequences. "How are we looking?" May's voice came through with slight static. "Not great. We've lost Mumbai completely, and Paris is running on backup systems that will fail within the hour. But Jake and Dr. Rossi might have found something interesting in the code." The video feed on her right laptop sprang to life, showing Jake's tired face. "Rachel, the compression algorithm I implemented? It's actually trying to optimize itself. That's why it's causing cascading failures. It's evolving faster than the hardware can adapt." "A self-learning compression algorithm?" Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Jake, that's either brilliant or insane. Probably both." "Story of my life." Jake attempted a weak smile. "But here's the thing. If we can use your dad's Ghost Protocol to create a controlled environment, we might be able to harness this optimization instead of fighting it." Dr. Rossi's voice joined the conversation. "It's risky, but Jake might be onto something. The Ghost Protocol could act as a containment vessel, letting us channel the algorithm's optimization in a controlled way." Rachel glanced at her flight timeline. "We land in Tokyo in 40 minutes. I'll need detailed schematics of how we're going to modify the protocol to accommodate Jake's runaway AI baby." "Already sending them," Tom replied. "But Rachel, this modification makes everything even more complicated. The timing has to be perfect at each node." In the background, Rachel could hear Sarah handling another crisis. "No, Mr. Chun, we are not experiencing technical difficulties. We're implementing advanced security protocols for the launch." "Yes, I understand your concerns." "No, the schedule will not be affected." The jet hit some turbulence, making Rachel grab her coffee before it spilled over her equipment. "How's she holding up?" she asked, knowing how much pressure their project manager must be under. "Like a champion," May responded. "But we've got press starting to ask questions. Someone leaked that there might be issues with the launch. Twitter's already buzzing." Rachel pulled up the social media feeds on her third laptop. #TechLaunchFail was starting to trend. "Great. Rachel." Her father's voice turned serious. "There's something else you need to know. The Ghost Protocol, there's a reason we never implemented it officially. It has a significant power draw. If we activate it at all these locations simultaneously, we could trigger brownouts," Rachel finished, understanding dawning on her face. "Major ones." "Exactly. We're talking potential power grid issues in multiple major cities. If we don't time this perfectly." The implications were staggering. Their attempt to fix the problem could cause chaos across multiple continents. Rachel closed her eyes for a moment, letting the jet's engine noise wash over her. When she opened them, her expression was determined. "We need to warn the local power companies. May, can you coordinate with utility providers in each affected city? We need them on standby to handle the surge." "On it," May confirmed. "But that means involving even more people who might leak to the press." "Better than causing blackouts across Asia and Europe," Rachel replied. She checked the time. 9:30 a.m. back in Silicon Valley. Just 2.5 hours until the launch. The pilot's voice came over the intercom. "Ms. Martinez, we're beginning our descent into Tokyo. Local time is 2:30 a.m. Rachel began packing her equipment. "May, have a car ready at the private terminal. Dad, start briefing the Tokyo team. Jake, Dr. Rossi, I'm going to need that modified protocol locked down by the time I land." As the jet began its descent, Rachel could see the lights of Tokyo spreading out below her like a glittering circuit board. Somewhere in that sea of lights was their Tokyo node, waiting for her to either save it or potentially plunge the city into darkness. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. No pressure, but the client CEO just arrived early. He wants to inspect the setup personally. Whatever you're going to do it fast. Chapter 5. Tokyo Countdown. The neon glow of Tokyo's Shibuya district blurred past Rachel's window as her driver navigated the pre-dawn streets. Their LED installation at the Tokyo International Forum was one of Visual Tech's most ambitious projects. A 200-foot curved display wall that would serve as the centerpiece for the Asian market launch. Update me, Rachel demanded into her headset, watching as the massive forum building came into view. It's getting worse, May's voice crackled. The optimization algorithm has spread to our Australian nodes. Sydney's reporting critical hardware stress, and Melbourne's backup systems are failing. Rachel-san, Kenji Tanaka, their Tokyo technical lead, was waiting at the service entrance. At 50, he'd been with Visual Tech since their first Japanese installation. The system, it's very bad. We've lost synchronization with Seoul and Shanghai. Rachel grabbed her equipment bag. Show me. They rushed through the building's service corridors, their footsteps echoing off polished floors. The main exhibition hall was a testament to technological ambition. The massive LED wall curved overhead like a digital wave, currently displaying error messages in angry red text. The local power company has been notified, Kenji reported as they hurried to the control room. But Rachel-san, they are very concerned. Our power draw is already at 150% of normal levels. Back in Silicon Valley, Sarah was facing her own crisis. The client CEO, James Chun, stood in the command center, his arms crossed. Miss Chun, I'm not interested in technical explanations. I have board members flying in from 3 continents. This launch cannot fail. Mr. Chun, I assure you, Sarah began, but was interrupted by new alarms. The London node had just gone dark. Dad, Rachel's voice came through the speakers. I'm at the main control panel in Tokyo. Talk me through the modifications. Tom and Dr. Rossi huddled over their screens. The Ghost protocol needs to be modified to account for Jake's optimization algorithm, Elena explained. It's not just about creating a parallel system anymore. We need to create a controlled environment where the AI can stabilize. Like building a cage around a tornado, Jake added, his fingers flying over his keyboard. Rachel, we're sending you the modified activation sequence now. In Tokyo, Rachel stared at the complex string of commands appearing on her screen. The Ghost protocol was complicated enough in its original form. These modifications made it look like digital brain surgery. Rachel-san, Kenji's voice was tense. Power grid officials are reporting fluctuations across eastern Tokyo. We need to act now. Rachel took a deep breath. May, is Sydney ready for this? They're next in the sequence. Sydney team is standing by. But Rachel, we just lost Paris completely. If this doesn't work in Tokyo, it'll work. Rachel cut her off, her fingers poised over the keyboard. Dad, Elena, Jake, I'm starting the sequence. Talk me through it. The next 10 minutes were a blur of technical commands, system responses, and heart-stopping moments when the entire power grid of eastern Tokyo fluctuated dangerously. Rachel could feel sweat trickling down her back as she input the final commands. Execution sequence complete, she announced. System response in 3, 2, 1. The massive LED wall flickered, went black, and then came back online, this time showing stable diagnostic patterns. It's working, Kenji exclaimed. Power levels are stabilizing. Synchronization is restored. Back in Silicon Valley, the command center erupted in cheers. But Sarah's relief was short-lived as she noticed Jake's expression. Guys, he said, his voice tight, we've got another problem. The optimization algorithm. It's not just stabilizing in Tokyo. It's learning. And what it's learning in Tokyo is being transmitted to every other node in the network. What does that mean? Sarah demanded. It means, Dr. Rossi replied slowly, that what happens in the next few minutes could either save our entire network or fry every LED wall we've ever built. Tom finished grimly. In Tokyo, Rachel was already seeing the effects. The diagnostic patterns on the LED wall were evolving, changing in ways she'd never seen before. Her phone buzzed, a text from the Sydney team. Something's happening to our systems. What should we do? Chapter 6, The Evolution. The Tokyo International Forum's LED wall had become a canvas for digital chaos. Patterns morphed and shifted, lines of code writing and rewriting themselves in real time as Jake's optimization algorithm continued its electronic evolution. "This is beautiful," Kenji whispered, watching as complex fractals bloomed across the massive display. "Beautiful and terrifying," Rachel responded, her fingers dancing across multiple keyboards. "Jake, what exactly am I looking at here?" Back in Silicon Valley, Jake was staring at his own screens in a mixture of awe and horror. The algorithm isn't just optimizing our video compression anymore. It's rewriting our entire system architecture. It's like it's trying to improve itself. Improve itself for what? Sarah demanded, acutely aware of Mr. Chun watching every move from the corner of the command center. Dr. Rossi's eyes widened as she analyzed the incoming data. It's attempting to solve the synchronization problem across all nodes simultaneously. The patterns we're seeing, they're not random. They're solutions being tested in real time. "Rachel," Tom's voice was urgent. "Sydney's reporting the same pattern evolution on their displays. London and Dubai are coming back online, but they're showing similar behavior." Rachel checked the power readings. They were fluctuating wildly, but staying just within safe parameters. The ghost protocol is holding, but barely. It's like trying to contain a digital explosion. Suddenly, May sat up straight in her chair. "Wait, look at these network readings. The algorithm isn't just synchronized across our nodes anymore. It's harmonizing them, creating some kind of unified system." On the main display wall in Silicon Valley, the global network map was transforming. The red warning indicators were being replaced by pulsing lines of light, connecting each node in an intricate web of data. "It's beautiful," Jake breathed, "but we have no idea what it's trying to become. If it keeps evolving at this rate, we need to make a decision," Sarah announced, her voice cutting through the tension. "We can try to shut it down now, return to traditional systems, and risk losing everything. Or we let it finish." Dr. Rossi completed the thought. "Let it complete whatever transformation it's attempting." Mr. Chun stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Ms. Chun, we have less than an hour until the global launch. Whatever decision you make it now." In Tokyo, Rachel watched as the patterns on the LED wall grew more complex, more purposeful. Her father had always taught her that technology had its own kind of life, its own evolution. But this was something else entirely. "Sarah," she said into her headset, I think we should let it run." "Explain." "These patterns, they're not just random mutations. They're improvements. Each iteration is more efficient than the last. It's like the system is teaching itself to be better." Jake's voice joined in, excited despite the tension. "She's right. Look at these efficiency metrics. The system is optimizing itself in ways we never even conceived of. If we let it complete, we could have something revolutionary," Dr. Rossi finished. "Or catastrophic." Sarah looked at the countdown clock, 47 minutes until launch. She turned to Mr. Chun. "Sir, I need to tell you something about our current situation." Before she could finish, every screen in both locations suddenly went black. The LED wall in Tokyo, the displays in Silicon Valley, everything went dark simultaneously. For 3 heartbeats, there was total silence. Then, one by one, the systems began to come back online. But what appeared on the screens made everyone gasp. Chapter 7, Digital Renaissance. As the screens flickered back to life, what appeared before them defied explanation. Every LED wall across the globe, from Tokyo to London, Dubai to Sydney, displayed the same mesmerizing pattern. A living, breathing network that seemed to pulse with its own intelligence. "Oh my God," Jake whispered, his face illuminated by the ethereal glow. "It's created a neural network. A real one." Dr. Rossi leaned forward, her eyes scanning rapidly through the data streams. "Not just any neural network. Look at these configurations. It's a completely new architecture. The system has essentially rebuilt itself from the ground up. In Tokyo, Rachel stood transfixed before the massive LED wall. The display showed not just patterns now, but a visual representation of data flowing through the global network. Every node was connected, every signal perfectly synchronized. What had started as Jake's well-intentioned mistake had evolved into something unprecedented. Power consumption has stabilized, Kenji reported, checking his readings. Actually, it's better than stable. The system is running at 40% less power than our original configuration. Sarah's voice crackled through the headset. Rachel, are you seeing this? The synchronization issues are gone. Completely gone. Every node is running in perfect harmony. But there wasn't time to celebrate. Mr. Chen stepped forward in the Silicon Valley Command Center, his expression stern. This is all very impressive, but we have 20 minutes until launch. Will it work? As if in response to his question, every screen suddenly displayed the same message. System optimization complete. New architecture stable. Ready for implementation. Jake's optimization algorithm had done more than fix their problems. It had revolutionized their entire system. Run a full diagnostic, Sarah ordered, her heart racing. Every node, every connection. We need to be absolutely certain. The next 15 minutes were a blur of testing, verification, and mounting tension. Teams across the globe reported the same results. The system was not just stable, it was performing beyond their wildest expectations. Video latency is nearly zero, May reported, her voice filled with disbelief. Signal quality is. I've never seen numbers like these. Rachel began running test patterns on the Tokyo display. The images were crystalline, the synchronization perfect. But something else caught her attention. The system was anticipating their needs, automatically optimizing for each new input. It's not just working, she said slowly. It's learning, growing. Every test we run makes it better. In Silicon Valley, Dr. Rossi turned to Sarah and Mr. Chen. What we're witnessing is beyond a simple technical solution. This is an evolutionary leap in display technology. Mr. Chen studied the data scrolling across the screens, his businessman's mind already calculating the implications. Can you control it? Not control exactly, Jake replied, his earlier guilt now replaced by cautious pride. But we can guide it, work with it. It's like we've created a digital ecosystem. The countdown clock showed 5 minutes until launch. Sarah took a deep breath and faced Mr. Chen. Sir, what you're seeing is a completely new paradigm in display technology. Your product launch won't just be synchronized, it will be seamless. Perfect. Something no one has ever seen before. Mr. Chen was silent for a long moment, studying the flowing patterns on the screens. Finally, he smiled. Miss Chen, I believe you and your team have just changed the game. Again. But before anyone could respond, a new alert flashed across all screens. The system had detected something, a potential flaw in their launch preparations that no human had noticed. As the countdown clock ticked toward zero, they faced one final challenge that would determine whether their digital evolution would be a triumph or a catastrophe. Chapter 8, Digital Transcendence. The alert pulsed an urgent red across every screen in the command center, its message both cryptic and alarming. Critical variants detected in quantum synchronization matrix. Jake's fingers flew across his keyboard, diving deep into the system's core. The networks detected a quantum instability in the Asian sector. If we launch now, there's a 12% chance of complete system collapse. 3 minutes to launch, Sarah announced, her voice steady despite the tension. Mr. Chen, we need to make a decision. The businessman's face was illuminated by the flowing patterns of light, casting sharp shadows across his features. What are our options? Dr. Rossi stepped forward, her eyes never leaving the cascading data streams. The system is suggesting a solution, but it's unprecedented. It wants to implement a real-time quantum error correction protocol, something it's apparently developed on its own. 2 minutes, Sarah called out. Rachel's voice crackled through from Tokyo. The instability is spreading. We're seeing fluctuations in the quantum field across all Asian nodes. Whatever we're going to do, it needs to be now. Jake studied the system's proposed solution, his eyes widening. This is brilliant. The network isn't just fixing the problem, it's using the quantum instability as a feature. It's incorporating the quantum fluctuations into its core architecture. In English, please, Mr. Chin demanded. It's like Jake searched for the right analogy. Instead of fighting against a wave, it's learning to surf it. The system wants to ride these quantum fluctuations to create an even more stable network. 1 minute 30 seconds, Sarah announced. Dr. Rossi nodded slowly, understanding dawning on her face. The risk isn't in implementing the solution, it's in not implementing it. This system has evolved beyond our original design. It's showing us the next step. But can we trust it? Mr. Chin asked, voicing the fear that hung heavy in the room. Kenji's voice joined from Tokyo. Quantum fluctuations are increasing. We're approaching critical threshold. 1 minute, Sarah called. Rachel's hands moved across her control panel, analyzing the system's proposal. The math checks out. This isn't just a patch, it's an evolution. The system has found a way to use quantum uncertainty as a stabilizing force. Jake turned to Sarah and Mr. Chun, his expression serious. We have to let it execute. This is why we created adaptive systems in the first place. To solve problems we couldn't anticipate. 45 seconds. Mr. Chin stood silent for a moment, then nodded sharply. Do it. Jake's fingers flew across the keyboard, initiating the system's protocol. Instantly, the patterns on the screen shifted, becoming more complex, more alive. The red warning signs faded, replaced by a cascade of blue-white light that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. 30 seconds. Quantum fluctuations are stabilizing, Kenji reported, amazement in his voice. The system is actually using them to strengthen the network. Rachel's voice was filled with wonder. It's beautiful. The quantum variations are creating a self-reinforcing feedback loop. The network is stronger now than it ever could have been with perfect stability. 15 seconds. Across every screen, in every command center worldwide, the same message appeared. Quantum integration complete. Network evolution successful. Ready for global implementation. 10 seconds, Sarah called out. Dr. Rossi's eyes were shining. We're witnessing the birth of true quantum computing. The system hasn't just solved our synchronization problems, it's created an entirely new computing paradigm. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The launch began, and what followed exceeded even their wildest expectations. Every screen across the globe lit up in perfect harmony, displaying images of unprecedented clarity and depth. The quantum-enhanced network didn't just synchronize the displays, it created a seamless global canvas that seemed to transcend the limitations of physical hardware. Mr. Chen watched in amazement as their product launch unfolded flawlessly across every continent simultaneously. This is more than we dreamed possible. It's more than anyone dreamed possible, Jake said softly. We set out to create a better display network, but we've actually created something that bridges the gap between classical and quantum computing. Sarah stepped forward, placing a hand on Jake's shoulder. Your mistake didn't just fix our problem. It opened a door we didn't even know existed. As the launch continued, Dr. Rossi was already documenting the implications. This technology will revolutionize not just displays, but computing itself. The applications are endless. Quantum secure communications, real-time global computing networks, true artificial intelligence. And it all started because we were willing to let the system evolve beyond our original design, Rachel added from Tokyo, her voice filled with pride. Mr. Chin turned to face the team, his businessman's reserve finally breaking into a genuine smile. I came here expecting a product launch. Instead, I've witnessed the future of technology itself. Well done, all of you. As the day drew to a close, Jake stood before the main display, watching the quantum-enhanced network pulse with life. What had begun as a desperate attempt to fix a synchronization problem had evolved into something far more profound, a true digital renaissance that would change the course of human technology forever. Sarah joined him, both of them bathed in the ethereal light of their creation. So, she asked with a slight smile, what do we do for an encore? Jake laughed, watching the beautiful patterns flow across the screen. I don't think we do anything. We just watch it grow and learn. Sometimes the best thing we can do is step back and let evolution take its course. Above them, the screens continued their dance of light and data, a testament to the moment when human ingenuity and digital evolution had combined to create something truly transcendent. The digital renaissance hadn't just changed their displays. It had opened the door to a future limited only by imagination itself.